Okay, so glute dysfunction in the wild. What do I mean by that, and why am I making this video? So when we talk about sort of back pain, obviously an important concept to understand is your back isn't weak. It's probably very overused, and it's doing a lot, way too much work it should be doing. And other areas of muscle groups in your body are basically getting a free ride. So your back's basically complaining because it's doing all of the work all of the time. So when we see like weird, I say weird, I mean shit, training examples on Instagram when people are training badly, it can be pretty obvious, such as this example. Obviously you can see horrific setup from the get-go, kind of gets the weight off, fails the first time round, then thinks, I better have a second go at it, and it's pretty painful to watch. But especially that kind of hip hiking that he's doing, so he can't drive through with his hips and his glutes to kind of get that weight up. So obviously that's a sure sign of, glute dysfunction or hip dysfunction. So he can't use his glutes to actually drive his hips into extension. That's why he kind of bounces the weight up off his knees and is like, tearing his discs and ligaments and all sorts to pieces. So those examples in the gym are pretty obvious. Well, it should be obvious. Well, that looks horrendous. But again, for most people, a lot of that sort of wear and tear and draining of that bank account occurs when their mind's elsewhere and doing other things. And your body's just kind of happen to be choosing the path of least resistance, which is to overuse your back. Now, a good example of this, I've randomly the past few weeks been watching a channel called Outdoor Boys. Great channel. They're not really running it anymore. He's almost got kind of too successful. It kind of took over his life. But there's lots of videos that he does, especially sort of the past few months, where he just kind of goes off into the middle of nowhere, builds himself a shelter, will go fishing, builds a fire, cooks food, all the rest of it. It's almost like sort of outdoor camping ASMR type videos where you get like, sound effects of chopping wood and cooking food. There's like no one around him, he's in the wilderness. They're great. But he's always complaining in most of his videos of back pain, and now recently also knee issues as well.
Wait for a bite. My back is killing me. I think I need a chair.
Oh, my back is stiff.
Oh man, that is a deep one. Ooh, now my knee just did something funny. Oh man, I just did something to my knee. I take an Advil.
So obviously knee pain when he's walking through the deep stone, when he kind of tweaks his knee. And then obviously back issue pains as well, quite a lot of his videos. But then if you kind of sort of think, well, why is he complaining about his back pain and his knee pain so much? Again, it's because he doesn't use his glutes properly. They're very underdeveloped and kind of atrophied. So if we look at some of the footage of him, building his campsite, his shelter, you can see he's constantly loading from that low back. And as you kind of see, he's actually got quite sort of strong, well-developed back erectors, lumbar erectors sticking out. But he's also got like no ass. So he's got no glutes because he basically doesn't use them. So if you don't use a muscle, it's going to atrophy. So again, the battle for most people is, yes, how you do things in training when you're trying to concentrate, making sure your form doesn't break down. But quite often, it's the 80% the other time when your mind's elsewhere. Are you doing things in a way that's just constantly picking that scab and recreating your problems? Something to consider, but that's where most people start to lose the battle, is not being aware of all those little things they do over the course of a day, which is encouraging those muscular imbalances and that overload on the back. So that's why I say to people, very important, especially when you first start, like physically sit down, look at the pattern of what your pain is, when your back feels the worst, times of day, what are you doing, what positions are you in? Are you in the car, home, office, wherever it may be, and kind of work back from that and work out what are those pain triggers, those pain aggravators, and how we can start to change those movement and posture habits so your back starts to settle. And again, that is, literally half the battle long term, but when you first start, it might even be 80% of your battle is getting those aggravators under control. But again, that's the battle. That's the point of this video, is making you aware of, how people do things when their mind's not on their posture, and how it causes you to drain your bank account. So again, as ever, back pain is not for life, but exercise is, as is, managing your aggravators as well.